say education is the key to unlock limitless potential. But just how safe is that key? Well, that is the discussion that we are having tonight. It's all about the new funding model. We'll talk about its efficiency and why there is some discontent voices regarding this particular model. And of course, just to help us unpack this discussion is Joseph Ndegwa Kingori, the head of lending, that is Higher Education Loan Board, standing in for Charles Ringera, CEO of HELB. Well, that discussion will be coming to you in just a bit. But first thing first, our team of reporters has been working around the clock to bring you up to speed with the latest in the world of politics, business, and sports. And here is what is coming up in the next 1 hour. Tonight, expanding bilateral ties. President William Ruto in Mozambique for a 2-day working tour. Give us another 47 days. Judges grant police request to have self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Mackenzie and 15 co-accused detained further pending police investigations. Also tonight, back to the basics. Scholars and the church convene at Kenyatta University, discusses the oneness of church and academics. Plus, Queens on a mission. The defending Kenya Premier League women champions off to Kampala for upcoming Sekafa tournament. Good evening, my name is AUMA Evans and Samuel Kelo will be assisting us on the sign language interpretation department. Well, we are live on KUTV, that is on YouTube. You can tweet us at KUTV_Kenya at AUMA Evans. Remember to use the hashtag Primetime News. Now, Primetime News begins right now. The of Kenya and that of Mozambique have signed 8 cooperation agreements in various fields as part of the effort to deepen economic ties between the two countries. President William Ruto and his Mozambique counterpart Filipe Nyusi says that the two countries are keen on strengthening trade relationship for the mutual benefit of their citizens. Our very own Joseph Case opens our bulletin tonight on the day that the head of state departed from the country for a 2-day tour visit of Mozambique. Take a look.
President William Ruto and Mozambique President Filipe Nyusi have today signed 8 memoranda of understanding aimed at boosting cooperation between the two countries. The areas agreed upon include mutual legal assistance in criminal matters, transfer of sentenced persons, mutual recognition and exchange of driving licenses, blue economy and fisheries sector, and defense cooperation agreement. Others were cooperations in the fields of agriculture, energy, and capacity development in the public service between the two nations. Speaking during a joint press briefing after holding bilateral talks at the office of the presidency, the Republic Maputo, President Ruto said that a joint trade committee for the two nations will be established to help boost trade and investment between the two countries.
I have agreed, Your Excellency, to expedite the process leading to the launch of the Kenya-Mozambique Joint Trade Committee that will again provide a framework for on a regular basis for the assessment of whatever challenges our teams encounter as they pursue opportunities in the business, trade, investment, and entrepreneurship.
Ruto has also lauded the Continental Free Trade Area, saying it is imperative in consolidating African nations and gives opportunity for the economies to grow.
The Continental Free Trade Area, which we are both signatories, is consolidating the African market so that we can eliminate barriers, roadblocks, and unnecessary bureaucracy.
We have noted that our diplomatic relations and economic relations now are undergoing a very good stage. The outcomes are notable day by day, and as a country we reiterate our commitment and interest to continue working with the government of the Republic of Kenya.
President Ruto has hailed his Mozambique counterpart for allowing Kenyans opportunities to trade and settle in the country, acknowledging the fact that 1,000 Kenyans and above reside in Mozambique.
Your Excellency, presently in Mozambique, there are, as I said, between 1,000 and 2,000 Kenyans working in the business space, professionals working in international organizations, and people who are living here as family members. I do express a lot of gratitude to you, Mr. President, for allowing these many Kenyans to be part of this Mozambique community.
President Nyusi is among the heads of state who are set to attend the climate change summit that will be held in Nairobi from 4th to 6th September. Joseph Kess, KUTV.
Now switching gears to corridors of justice. Shanzu Law Court has today ruled to further detain controversial self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Mackenzie together with his co-accused persons for the next 47 days. This is after Director of Public Prosecution Mohammed Amin filed an application to continue holding him and his accomplices to give the police more time to wind up their investigations. Lynette Maina gives us an update of the Shakahola event that shocked the nation.
27 more days behind bars for controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie and 27 co-accused persons, effective from 2nd of this month. This decision was rendered today by Shanzu Senior Principal Magistrate, who ruled to detain them further, citing lack of valid reason to release them on bail or bond. This ruling comes days after the Director of Public Prosecution filed an application to continue holding Mackenzie and his accomplices to give room for the police to finish the investigations. Mackenzie's lawyer Wycliffe Makasembo, however, dismissed the application, saying the prosecution failed to charge his clients, only to ask for more time to investigate. At least 425 bodies have been exhumed, with 40 more grave sites mapped and yet to be dug. The former televangelist, who is facing 12 charges, including murder, aiding suicide, abduction, radicalization, genocide, crime against humanity, child cruelty, fraud, money laundering, among others, continues to claim that his rights are being violated while being held up. Lynette Maina, KUTV.
And the National Assembly Committee on Blue Economy, Water and Irrigation has agreed to a proposal by the stakeholders in the water sector to merge the Water Resource Authority and Water Service Regulatory Authority as part of water reforms to arrest water losses, multiple taxations, and dilute resources in water management authorities. The committee members, led by Marakwet East Member of Parliament Kagongo Bowen, pledged to table a bill in Parliament to enact this, among many other reforms in the water sector.
Finally, a beacon of hope may be lying in the horizon of the endless tunnel of crisis facing the water sector. Through the Water and Sanitation Providers Association, WAPSA, the National Assembly Committee on Blue Economy, Water and Irrigation received a proposal from stakeholders in the water sector to merge the two main antagonists in water regulation, Water Resources Authority WRA and Water Services Regulatory Authority WASREB.
Those guys don't care. What they say is whether I use the water or I don't use the water, I'll pay 500. So they keep the taps running. And that is why our strong appeal, Mheshimiwa, is now for the government to come in and look at the entire system.
The pleas by water stakeholders found ample ears in the Parliamentary Committee, with the member MPs pledging to table a water bill in Parliament to arrest the many upheavals in the water sector.
The issue of WRA and water, why are we having two regulators? I want to inform honorable members that we visited Rwanda with the Council of Governors. And in Rwanda, they just have one regulator. Why is it that in Kenya, we have multiple regulators?
I want to agree that we don't need two regulators in water. We don't need WRA and WARS completely.
Questions were also raised on the neglection of water catchment areas, which, despite quenching the thirsts of many, still remain behind in water connectivity. Marakwet East MP Kangogo Bowen, who chairs the committee, revealed plans for a compensation package for counties that host catchment areas and water reservoirs from the proceeds of water distributed across the country.
Those people of Murang'a, actually, they conserved their forest. They have kept their forest. They have their source of water is from there. You are doing the dam in Murang'a, but the water is consumed in Nairobi, and those people in Murang'a, they don't have water. What do you think about that?
Excessive water losses, a crisis in water management, multiple taxation on water parastatals, loans and debts are among the predicaments leading to the need for reforms in the water sector. Munenaweru, KUTV.
Elsewhere, the second annual conference of the Society of Christian Scholars kick off today and is expected to run until tomorrow. The conference, which aimed to strengthen the relationship between the work of academic scholars and the church, was graced by various Christian scholars from across the world. The first conference was held in Gambia last year, and also our very own Yvonne Kemuma, of course, attended the conference and packed the following report.
The Society of Christian Scholars of Kenya has today held its second conference at the Kenyatta University Conference Center. The conference, which aims to discuss issues geared towards strengthening the relation between work of academic scholars and the church, involved various Christian scholars and stakeholders from across the world. Reverend Kaliso Odede, presiding bishop at CITAM Nairobi, says that at times the research done in the academic field is mostly for academic purposes, as he notes that there is a chance that the research done in the field of academia can be solution-based and be used in bringing about transformation in society.
We did talk quite at length that sometimes the kind of research we do is basically to pass exams or to get our degrees or to be able to graduate and get a PhD, but that we can actually go to the level where our research are solution-based, our research are transformative, so that we are getting involved in research because we want to see people's lives changed and transformed.
He further adds that there is an importance to ensure that the world recognizes that Christians can also be scholars in the faith, for academic scholarship is also a calling. Professor Asum Tempo, the chairperson of the Society of Christian Scholars in Africa, notes that for a while now the voices of Christian academics have been muffled as many scholars do not see their work as a calling, stating that there is a separation between university and church work.
Let the Christian scholars of Africa, scholars who are Christians all over the world, let them unite and bring out the voice of the Christian of Christian intellectuals, because we are in a world that is decaying. Strange ideas have penetrated our curriculum.
We want to know the value system of that student, apart from learning about science and plants that I've taught them. What's their personal value in terms of views, in terms of belief, in terms of how they treat one another, in terms of how they view the government, how they view their homes, what's their relationship with God, what's their relationship with one another.
Professor Kamau Mbugwa, a lecturer at Kenyatta University in the Department of Plant Sciences, says that the conference is of great impact and is important for students to have personal values and views apart from what they study in the university level. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV.
Right, we are due for a first break here on KUTV Primetime News. Remember, we have plenty more to come, including our discussion of the day, that is the new funding model. Please do stay with us in just a bit.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
Folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
People power si vuguvugu. People power ni idea.
Tazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, ndio inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Geoffrey, my love, what happened to your face? Is everything okay? Are you hurt?
I'm a bit nervous. I feel like such an idiot.
What brings you here at this time? I wasn't expecting you. What could be the issue?
Who could be the person behind all this mess? Those guys really set me up good.
Zahara, please, free my son, Egesa. We know that you're the one who put him in there, and you can get him out.
Egesa, listen to me. I'm going to be a witness.
Just grown to really like you.
You give me hope. To Kenya, this is my jam down. I say manami, I will never give up. Na hata nikisota away. Everybody wanna feel like me. You is like a river. Real thing, if I never mama, I wouldn't believe it. Hear me when I say just like.
Right, welcome back, and of course this is where we pick this particular conversation. Remember, my guest is already in the studio. That is Joseph Ndegwa Kingore, the head of lending, that is Higher Education Loan Board. And of course we'll be talking about a raft of issues here pertaining this new funding model, and we just want to break it down in a simple way that you can understand, so that at the end of this discussion we'll know what is the way forward. But first thing first, let us take a look at this particular story that will form the basis of this particular discussion. Well, the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms has made far-reaching recommendations on the education sector in the country. The changes recommended, include the funding models in the university and the removal of compulsory subject for career choices. The Working Party has, however, maintained the competence-based curriculum, that is CBC system, with instruction to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, that is KICD, to rationalize the system number of the learning areas.
Learners being churned through the competency-based curriculum CBC education chain will now have less workload following the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms. The report has recommended the slashing of subjects taught in junior schools from 14 to 9. Regarding the naming of the new tier of academic learning, the team of experts want the word secondary dropped from junior and senior levels of the basic level of education.
The third one has gotten.
As the cloud of uncertainty that has been hanging over the full implementation of CBC settles, funding of learning in tertiary institutions is now the cause of jitters among parents and students alike. The government has scrapped the automatic grants for students joining institutions of higher learning and introduced a new model of funding which will be based on a needs assessment. The new model is set to categorize students into 4: vulnerable, extremely needy, needy, and less needy. Under the Higher Education Loans Board, those students falling under the category of vulnerable and extremely needy will qualify for 100% government funding for their studies, with the money coming as scholarships and loans, and those deemed to be needy and less needy will get 93% government funding, with the students bearing 7% of the tuition costs. The main question now is whether key stakeholders in the higher education ecosystem are ready for the recommendations put forward by the Presidential Working Party on education reforms.
Right, well, the funding framework seeks to offer students whose household are at the bottom of the pyramid equal opportunity in accessing university education and technical vocational education and training, of course. And let me just break down the model in these categories for you. And of course, one of the key areas that we have the vulnerable, where the student falling under the vulnerable and the extremely needy category will qualify for the 100% government funding. Same applies to those who will be joining TVET. And of course, under this funding model, for their study, of course, this will be through scholarship and loans that will be provided by the government and the Higher Education Loan Board, that is HELB. Well, we have the needy and, of course, less needy other category. Well, in this category, those from the needy and less needy household, of course, will get 93% government funding, with the student bearing 7% of that. Well, this will be constituted by 53% that is the government scholarship, and 40% that is the loan from the Higher Education Loan Board. Well, this still will apply for those who will join TVET and will receive up to 50% of the government scholarship and 30% of this particular loan that will be provided by the Higher Education Loan Board, and 20% will be paid by their household. And that is what is basically happening, and this is the discussion, and this is what will be forming the basis of our discussion tonight. And the bone of the contention here is this particular funding model, and of course this is where I will dive you in, Joseph, for this particular one. It has raised questions, of course, serious questions among education stakeholders, even the learners themselves, and they're just wondering the rationale behind this particular model. Well, just this particular model is unpopular to learners. So how can we unpack this in a simple term so that those who are contesting the rationale behind this can actually understand this particular model?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm here on behalf of my CEO, Charles Rigera. He's out of Nairobi. I think it is the information that people have not been able to get, because this model is actually not changing what was going on so much. Even before this model came, the government was still giving what we call a grant, or what we call capitation. And if I can give an example, a student in KU, where the cost of the program is about 620 then. The government was still giving over 340,000 to KU as a grant. So what has happened this time is that this grant kept on going down because of the fiscal, the money, the budget constraints.
All right.
But now what the president has done, he said, how do we solve this problem where capitation is going down? Can we enhance funding? And then we delink the former, where we used to say that if you are placed by COOPs, you must be funded by government. And he said, we shall now base our funding on the actual cost of the program plus the level of need.
Okay.
And that now brings me to the categories you're talking about. Okay. However, even with that, nobody is going to be left behind. Even the ones who are less needy, even the ones who are able, so long as they apply and they can prove that they are going to need support. But what is happening is the differentiation in terms of how much of scholarship do you get, how much of loan do you get. So if you are needy and extremely needy, and vulnerable, of course the scholarship is high, 82%, and you're not supposed to pay anything. In fact, universities are not supposed to charge you anything.
All right.
Even for computer, even what they call admission fee, nothing. Because we were told, give us everything. And then they were told, because government is a bulk purchaser, is buying education for Kenyans, give us a discount of 15%. And actually they accepted, they negotiated, they are giving a discount of 15%.
Okay.
So really nothing is changing. What we have is more enhanced funding and more money to get to the university. In fact, this year alone, we might get another 20 more billion to universities that was not there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the intention of this might be good. Of course, when you look it on the paper, it seems to be a good funding model. But here, this is a student-based, and the bone of contention here is, the burden that actually the student will have to bear. Take a case study, for example. If you are a medical student and actually, you fall under let's say the less needy, and you get this, 53% that is from the government scholarship, then you'll have to shoulder the 40. Then of course household, you will get loan from 40 loan from help. Then your household will have to pay 7. Well, at the end of the 6 years, the accumulative debt that you will actually have, that you owe the loan, of course, will be close to 1. Others will even pay 2 million. Now, the burden that will shift, of course, to student, that is what is worrying many. And of course, even as you talk about how it will help to bridge the gap, but this is the bone of contention and this is the concern. So how best can we move on this, and how fair is this one?
Talking about the loan burden, I think maybe we need to understand how this model is working. Number one, I said before, the government was funding maybe at allowed if 328, and the cost of the medicine is here in KU is 720. So it means that the government was funding 50% of the cost of the program. And so even this story you hear of half-baked graduates could have started from there.
All right.
Now, in this case, the government is going to fund KU to the tune of 720.
Okay.
All the money you need. So what happens to that? You'll get quality graduates, employable graduates. Our graduates will be very competitive all over the world. Now, when you talk about the loan burden, I do not want to look at it the way you're looking at it. Because this is not a student after graduation.
All right.
He's working like you. So, and then if you look at, assuming you're doing medicine, the loan will be allowed 440 per year.
When you do
You're doing medicine, like here in KU, the loan every year. Because the rest of it will be a scholarship.
Are you talking about after you're done with your studies?
No. 400 per. If you are you said we talked about less need, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are doing medicine here, the loan given to you will be 420 thereabout.
Okay.
And the rest of it will be a scholarship, and then the parents are going to give about 40,000 shillings per year. Parents who have been paying this in high school, they are paying even more in high school. Actually, so if you look at it like a burden and you're getting quality product, you'd rather get a quality product and then you deal with that. And even if you look at it worldwide, even Tanzania close here, Tanzania education is expensive. They pay to the full cost, and you get a loan to the full cost of the program. And for them, they don't have scholarships. It's a loan throughout. So you finish school with about 3 million, 4 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the burden here is what is actually...
Yes, and maybe just to make the burden, you are supposed, our loans, you pay them in about 10 years.
Okay.
We are willing to extend that period so that the quantums are low.
Okay.
And even when we simulate, the highest that you can be able to pay, if you give you 10 years, the highest you can be able to pay is about 8,000 shillings per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there is another, issue that has been raised, and this is, concern for many. Well, we talk about just how efficient is this new model. How do you determine that student A student A falls under the category of vulnerable, student B falls under the category of extremely needy? How do you determine that?
When this model was announced by the president, he directed that we use the HELB MTI. The HELB means-testing instrument has been used for more than 25 years.
Okay.
And we have tested it. Now, the key thing about that MTI is not like any other means-testing instrument, the validation. we have connections with NEMIS. NEMIS is MIS for the Ministry of Education. We have connections with NEA, National Employment Authority. We now have a connection with NHIF. We have a connection with the NTSA. Nobody is going to hide. We have KNBS is supporting us. We are now approaching Safaricom, but nobody, what we're trying to say is that you cannot cheat your way into this model. We will be able to identify you using so many variables. Actually, this is a multilinear equation with so many variables that we look at. Maybe if the details of those variables may not be important here, but we have like 10 variables that we use, which tell us, which are indicators, in fact, proxy indicators of your level of need. And when we validate those variables with now those institutions that I've mentioned, I can tell you the margin of error is almost zero.
Well, talking about the margin of error here, and of course, a student of history will tell you, history has a way of, teaching us about the past. In many instances, we have seen where, errors are made, even some, being locked out of this particular, search process. And the big question that many are asking this time around, just how different will it be, unlike the previous years that we have seen, even those that deserve this particular opportunity, they miss out, and those that actually don't deserve it, get it. That is the big question that many people are asking.
From our analysis, I don't know what data you're using, but we know we have been able to cover very needy students. The only problem and the challenge that people don't understand, usually our loans are given on a fast come, fast given. It's like a supermarket where we sell money. And if you come today, we'll sell it to you. Now, if you come after 2 months and the money is finished, what do we do? For example, this year we had quite a big gap where we left out quite a number of students because of budgetary constraints. So what is different this year is that the president has committed money, a lot of money, and even Parliament approved, I think, this week, our budget. So we know we have the funds.
Hold on to that thought. Of course, we'll be coming, just to take a look on all this, the funding and how sustainable it will be, because we have seen some failing, and we'll talk about that, but that we'll talk about it after this short break. All right, well, we take another short break. When we come back, still the discussion is all about the new funding model. See you in a bit.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Tech Innovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
What are some of the ways through which you can develop these skills so that you are comfortably fitting into the job?
You have to put yourself in positions where you are uncomfortable in the sense that you are not clear about what to do.
Because I used to work a corporate job before. So when I left, I happened to visit someone's farm around this area.
So this project is called Security Breach Detector and Palace Familiarize. It is meant to be used to detect, detonate explosive.
We tackle all the tough issues, discuss all the weird moments, and hopefully share a few laughs along the way.
right, welcome back. And remember, this is the discussion that we are having here, the new funding model that has caused some uproar among education stakeholders. And remember, there is 4 key, categories that are being used to determine who deserve what and at what point. That is, there is a vulnerable category. We have the extremely needy, the needy, and the less needy. Remember, under this category, the vulnerable and the extremely needy will get 100%, that is fund from the government and of course the Higher Education Loan Board to further their studies and enjoy the fruit of their hard work. Well, there is another category, that is the needy and the less needy, where the household will have to contribute at least 7%, and of course they will get loan. And this applies across all board, that is for the university and those who will be joining the vocational training, and of course that is under the category of TVET. And of course, who is best to tell us this and break it down to us other than Joseph Ndegwa? This is the lending manager at the Higher Education Loan Board, and this particular discussion still continues here. And Mr. Ndegwa, of course, you mentioned a few things about the criteria that is being used to select this. And when you mention about means of testing instrument, and this is, it's very, where it gets very interesting, where you use the, factors like the background, the gender, and of course the size of the family to determine who gets what and at what point. Well, you remember at first I asked you about, the efficiency of this. When you put into factor these categories, so what are you looking into?
Number one, we are looking at the primary data for these students, and by the time we came up with this categorization, we did analysis going back 10 years, 5 years, and we saw how the trend was coming in. And at any time we did analysis, there was always about 30% of people who would always be in the vulnerable and extremely needy category. Previously, they were getting a loan of 50,000 and above. And so then the other people are spread in the other 70%. And apart from the primary data that we are looking at, we are also validating.
All right.
So the other MTI is like, you look at the MTI used by other departments, because it's a commonly used tool. They don't validate. They rely on self-declaration. So I ask you, are you working? And you say, yes, I'm not working. You see, now a person can decide to hide information, but now you hide the information, but we'll get you. If you tell us your parent is a farmer, we will go to NTSA and check what else does this person has. He owns a tractor, he owns a combine harvester, and he's telling us he's a poor person.
All right.
So those contradictions, we are able to remove them using regression analysis on how those variables are relating. Because we will find you here, you are saying you're a farmer, but in another area you own assets. We go to another KLA, we find that maybe you're paying even there is rent or tax from rent or income. So those things, we use a formula to come up with a variable that now is your MTI score.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the two model. Now we have this new model, the new funding model, and of course we have the current one, the under differentiated unit of cost. Well, under this, of course, the government, including the scholarship plus loan, the government funded 80% of this. 20, of course, came from help and of course, let's say even household.
Yes.
Well, this looked to be a relief to student, but when you take into account the reason why we are here is because even this one failed to work. Remember, down the line, the government has just at least funded, let's say, the previous one was about 48.11%. And now this raises another yet very important question. How sustainable is this? And what guarantee do we have that at the end of the day, a student who will apply will actually go on with their education without being interrupted because of lack of fund? Because this is something that we have to put into consideration, because in as much as we talk about the future, we must look at the past and the reason why we are here today.
Talking about sustainability, we have gotten commitments from both the presidency and also the National Treasury that we are going to be funded.
All right.
This year alone, our allocation has doubled.
Okay.
And we have been promised, by the time, maybe by the fifth year, the government will have put in 100 billion. And there is commitment for that.
All right.
We are also going to enhance our recoveries so that we can also support it, because usually our budget is a mix of our internally generated revenues like loan recoveries and also capitation from government. So we have commitment on that. Especially for the KCC 2022, there is very clear indication that every student will be funded. The money given is per person per cost of their program. You see, the cost of program was costed plus the number of students who are placed by COOPs. So we have that actual figure.
Okay.
So nobody is going to be left behind.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another very interesting thing to take into account. I'm talking about the fate of private universities and the fate of self-sponsored student, because you mentioned that school fees has not been increased, but I can tell you, when you look at the fee structure, of course, there is every reason to be worried. Well, if you are self-sponsored and you get a fee structure that is a little bit, hiked, and the government, of course, first of all, will not fund those in private. And if you are self-sponsored, then that means you'll have to burden that cost. You'll have to share the burden of that cost. So what is the fate of these two categories of students?
If anybody did KCSE last year, 2020, that is the December KCSE.
All right.
And you're going to a private university, you'll be funded at the cost of that program. And let me just debunk this. Fees has not been increased. How much has private PSSP, the self-sponsored student, been paid? Even here, if you come to do medicine and you're self-sponsored, you are paying the 720.
All right.
So nothing has changed. It's only that the government has said, now, I'll take over this. Now, if you go to a private university, and it's good, the highest private university I've seen charging is about 585,000. The ones that are expensive, like Strathmore, Aga Khan, are not there. They are not participating in the COOP's placement. So about 585. So we will be able to fund them, not at the actual program cost, but we will cap it maybe at around 500,000 if you are going to a private university or you are going to a PSSP. But if you are not in the KCC 2028, we'll fund you based on the old funding model. Okay. Because their fee structure remain the same. They are being supported like government-sponsored students.
All right.
Yeah. And even those ones that are privately sponsored in the old funding model, they had done their calculation. They knew we get 60 from HELP, 60 from my parents, 63 from where? CDF. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, now that we are talking about how to tackle...
private universities have not been left out. Yeah?
All right.
The only thing that they're not going to get is the scholarship.
The scholarship.
Yeah, but the old grants will continue from University Funding Board.
From University Funding Board.
Yeah, they are the ones giving the scholarship. But we are using one platform because you see of coordination. We're using one platform, and the COOPs and the UF and ourselves are working together to implement this program so that we coordinate.
Will that not, hike the school fees? Because if they're not getting the funding, then they'll be forced to actually, come up with ways of at least accommodating the lost fund. Will that not increase the school fees?
I don't think so, but because at the back of your mind when they were choosing placement at COOPs, they were given 3 warnings.
All right.
In lead, you are choosing a program that will not be funded through a scholarship by government. Do you want to proceed? They said yes. Again, before they submitted, they were told the same thing. Right. Even when they were logging in, they were told the same. So this person who made this choice to go to a private university knew where he'll get the other.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, if you talked about first come first served, let's say I'm from, let's say, this category. I fall under the category of vulnerable and extremely needy, and maybe I applied late. So what is my fate?
For this model, I said we have received money for every student. So we are not going to lock it out, or there is no late application until the last student applies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is fair enough. Now, this particular model seems to be, some sort, according to you, that will solve these particular issues. But do you think this is now, that particular, the antidote that we have been lacking in the education sector? Because remember, we have been here before, we had we have many reforms from proposals just to try and change how education will be, to actually shape it and have that the desired achievement that we want to take our education to the higher level. Do you think now this is that one gun that we have been waiting for?
This is the killer punch we have been waiting for. Because when you've had KU at the level of the program cost, what you mean is you're transferring enough money to KU to do other things. You will not be thinking about making money anymore.
Okay.
You'll be thinking about teaching and research.
Okay.
So this is the solution we've been waiting for.
All right.
Yeah.
As we wind up, and this will serve as your parting shot, how does this means testing instrument bring that equity and fairness that you talk about?
Great. Actually, this model is based on equity.
Okay.
Remember, the other model used to be given the same amount of money. If you're in the same class doing the same course, same amount of money by government, is it?
Okay.
But this model is going to look at your vulnerability, your level of need, and you are funded at the same. So two people in the same classroom, one is getting a different amount of money from the other one. So there is a lot of equity, and it is student-centered.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the focus on equity. Previously, we were looking at equality because, like, you look at the DUC was funding people at the same level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph Degwa Kingori, thank you so much for making time to talk to KUTV. It's always a pleasure to have you. Well, that was a very candid discussion here, and we have had it, and we hope this time around things will fall into perfect place as they are required. Of course, that is why we take another short break. When we come back, we'll be diving into many more stories, including our sports, news.
In Kenya, for example, the frequency of the floods is becoming more and worse. The amount of people and livestock we're losing.
The level we need to go is the level where the normal mwananchi and also the government stakeholders can uptake these solutions.
Those small acts multiplied by millions of us will help make a difference in the world at the end of the day.
It's just a slight behavior change that we need, and you find that it serves us a bit more than you put in. And that's the goal. We want to live a better world than we found. Because at the rate we are going, it's dire.
We will secure the planet for future generations.
During demonstrations, it is the right to demonstrate, the right to picket, the right to assemble, and the right to petition. These are the rights which, emerge directly from that context. But it is also important to appreciate that Article 37 should not be read in isolation.
national government has suspended mining operation in Migori County until millers acquire legal licenses. At the same time, residents living in the semi-arid regions of Bondeni, Makena in Mwea sub-county held a public participation meeting to discuss the state of their health services. Let's get this and more in our subsequent county wrap report.
Migori County Commissioner David Gitonga has temporarily slammed brakes on mining in some sites within the county. Gitonga has stated that it is only through regulations that the government can generate revenue and also protect the miners from cartels. Regional Mining Director Joseph Boyo affirmed that the only law-abiding mines will operate.
The key thing is to issue stop orders to the miners and operators in this area, and also to sensitize them on the importance of being licensed, being organized, so that they can be able to benefit from the operations or financing from the government.
It has been a while since the licenses have been issued to these operators, but then most of them have not even made an attempt of applying, and that is why we've come here.
Meanwhile, residents living in the semi-arid region of Mbondoni in Makema, Mwea County gathered to speak out on matters concerning their regional health facility. They complained of their difficulties in reaching hospitals, especially for expectant mothers who end up giving birth in matatus.
Mgonjwa akiminyika huku kwetu Mbondoni, sisi kutoka nyumbani eli ya kunja hapa hospitali tunatumia motorbike, tunatumia baisikeli, tunatumia gari ya ng'ombe. Hapo pengine akifika kwa hospitali hakuna gari ya kupeleka mtu huko Embu dispensary au Machakos dispensary.
The residents are calling upon the county government to help them ensure that their health facilities are well equipped. They also want the maternity ward to be operational for mothers to deliver safely.
Pia tuko na maternity pale ambayo inakuja. Na hakuna maternity inaweza fanya bila maji. Hii Bondoni yetu ni kubwa sana. Na imekuwa Bondoni location. Na iko na hospitali moja. Hiyo hospitali moja haiwezi kafanya location mzima. Still, ile Bondoni tunasema tuko nayo, iko na understaffing. Iko na daktari mmoja.
In Laikipia, residents are relieved after receiving 4 million shillings commission for a counseling center. Laikipia East Assistant County Commissioner Phoebe Mukami says that learners facing mental health challenges in schools, behaviors will change for the better after accessing counseling services from the center.
Tunajua mental health ni issue yenye sana sana inaanzanga watu wakiwa wadogo. Watu wengi wenye wako na shida ya mental health hii kuanza wakiwa wakubwa. Wengi walianza wakiwa wadogo, manake hizi ni childhood issues zenye zinawapata. So wakati tunapata facility kama hii katika shule kwanza primary school, it means watoto wako na opportunity ya kukua counseled wakiendelea kukua.
Drug use incidences have been on the rise in the area. Charles Kirubi, KUTV.
The Kenyan government is creating shelters for the survivors of human trafficking. Authorities says the goal is to help victims recover from their traumatic experiences, rebuild their lives and prosecute human traffickers. More is here. Here is more from the Voice of America.
Sasa ni mimi na hao wasichana wawili walinirescue kwa
Mercy Njeru says her two attempts to find work in the Middle East in 2014 and 2020 turned horrific. Both times she was promised work in an office and instead ended up as a domestic worker in private homes where Njeru says she was beaten and overworked.
If I did not finish some work, they would beat me. Or, for example, when the baby would cry and bother them, and I did not hear the baby cry because I was cleaning somewhere else, he and his brothers would come and beat me up.
Njeru managed to get out with the help of an aid group called Heart Kenya, but officials say she is an exception. Many victims of human trafficking remain trapped. Now the Kenyan government is setting up shelters for victims of human trafficking. Authorities say many survivors do not have a place to live, making it difficult to help them and investigate their traffickers.
We require to keep them in a safe place
as investigations are ongoing, and also to enable them reintegrate back to the society. So we have specialists in all sectors to assist them build up their confidence so that they are able to fit into the society.
The government says many Kenyans are lured with the promise of jobs online and sent primarily to the Middle East and Far East countries such as Laos, Malaysia, and Thailand. The UN Refugee Agency says protection of victims of human trafficking are severely lacking, especially in Africa. Some are left to suffer repeated and multiple forms of abuse and even die. Non-profits such as Heart Kenya are working to help.
We provide the support either by helping them to come back to the country or helping them if they need support in terms of getting different forms of direct assistance, such as legal aid, therapy, medical intervention, or we support them to restart the plants.
Like Njeru's plan for her future, she's studying to be a hairdresser now. Aid groups and government officials say they hope by working together, more victims of human trafficking can be saved and more traffickers prosecuted. Victoria Amunga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Now it's time for the latest in the world of sports. The defending champions, Kenya Women Premier League champions, that is Vihiga Queens, jetted out of the country to Kampala, Uganda on Thursday evening ahead of Sekafa Club Championship, slated for 12th to 30th of August 2023. The Vihiga best side will be out to hunt ticket that will also double up as qualifiers for the CAF Women's Champions League to be held in Ivory Coast later this year. The four-time Women Premier League champions have been camping at Kasarani Annex and will face KT Queens of Tanzania as Kigali Women of Rwanda and New Generation of Zanzibar in Pool B. While still Motors football, the Football Kenya Federation Charity Shield 2023 pitting Gor Mahia against Kakamega Homeboys is scheduled to take place on Saturday, the 10th of August 2023 at Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani Stadium. The record-breaking Gor, who made history by becoming the first ever Kenyan side to win 20 league title, will face stubborn Homeboys who left them with a bitter taste of last season, bundling them out of Mozart Bet Cup title and a defeat in the second leg of Football Kenya Federation Premier League in a match that could shape the dynamic of the 2023-2024 season. Right, that's it for today. Many thanks, of course, for joining us. My name is AUMA Evans. Samuel Kelo has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Until next time, do have a lovely night. Good night for now.